library time.
Hi friends, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. We know that lots of good things come in twos, like socks, or chopsticks, or Twinkies. But did you know that words are also extra yummy when they come in pairs? To show you this, I want to read you one of my favorite all-time books, Double Trouble in Walla Walla by Andrew Clements, illustrated by Salvatore Murdocca. These two names you will I spy around the library because Andrew Clements wrote some of our favorite all-time middle grade chapter books, like the award-winning Frindle or No Talking. And Sal Murdocca illustrated all of the Magic Treehouse books. A lot of you are aficionados on his work already, and you don't even know it. He illustrated this book with watercolor. Imagine, think of how much time it takes to paint something in watercolor, waiting for it to dry so it won't drip or the colors won't bleed, and then adding an extra little detail. So imagine how much patience it took to paint an entire book and edit it and make revisions and do it again until it was perfect. I love the highlight layers of the light paint and then just the drip drops of dark paint to create shadows in the trees. It's really beautiful, even without the words. I love it, Sal Murdocca. Double Trouble in Walla Walla. It was an ordinary Monday morning in Walla Walla until Lulu raised her hand in class. Mrs. Bell, I feel like a nitwit. My homework is all higgledy-piggledy. Last night it was in tip-top shape, but now it's a big mishmash. Mrs. Bell said, Nitwit, higgledy-piggledy, mishmash. Lulu, stop that flip-flop chitter-chatter or you will be in double trouble. Lulu said, but I'm not trying to flip-flop chit-chat. I just have an itty-bitty problem with my homework. Mrs. Bell scowled. All right for you, Lulu. If you're going to shilly-shally and dilly-dally with all this fancy-schmancy yik-yak, then we just have to trick-trot down to the principal's office. Mrs. Bell hurried Lulu down the hall, and they burst into the principal's office. The other kids are saying, hee-hee, yak-yak, shh, blah, blah, looky-looky, my. Come, said Miss Bell. Mr. Thomas said, what's the hubbub about? Miss Bell said, Lulu has been trying to razzle-dazzle me with some kind of lippity-loppity jibber-jabber, and now I'm all helter-skelter myself. Mr. Thomas raised his eyebrows. Tut-tut, sounds like silly hocus-pocus to me. Mrs. Bell's mouth dropped open. She pointed at the principal. Eka freaka, Lulu's got your tongue all topsy-turvy too. Now, don't get the jim-jams, Mrs. Bell. Let's give the nurse a yoo-hoo. Mr. Thomas picked up his phone and said, Mrs. Carter, I'm going to pitter-patter over to your office. Okie dokie? All three went across the hall to the nurse's office. Mr. Thomas said, howdy doody, Mrs. Carter. We're a little wacko-wacko. Lulu's got us talking this sing-song claptrap like we're cuckoo. Mrs. Carter smiled at Lulu and said, oh, fiddle. Lulu and I are palsy-walsies. She wouldn't try that kind of phony baloney tutti-frutti flim-flam. Lulu and her teacher and the principal stared at the nurse. Lulu said, wowie zowie. Mrs. Bell said, jeepers creepers. And Mr. Thomas said, holy moly, you're in the same hodgepodge we are. I'd better give the superintendent a jingle-jangle, chop-chop. Wait one ding-dong tick-tock, shouted the nurse. If you chit-chat with the bigwig, then he'll yak-yak-yak like Lulu too. If we're not very, very hush-hush about this, there could be a mongo brain drain, and everybody in Walla Walla will be talking like a herky-jerky ding-a-ling. Then the nurse turned to Lulu. Lulu, let's get to the nitty-gritty. When did all this mumbo-jumbo start? Lulu gulped. She said, well, in English class, I had an itsy-bitsy problem with my homework. And then zip-zap, Mrs. Bell said talking like this was a no-no. The nurse looked over the top of her glasses at Lulu. Something like this would not just happen willy-nilly. Now, Lulu, think extra hard and tell me what you did yesterday. Well, said Lulu, it was a really humdrum day. I was practicing ballet in my tutu when my little brother Bobo asked me to play on the teeter-totter. We seesawed until Bobo slipped off and got a boo-boo and started to boo-hoo. Mama and Papa came running pell-mell, so I went inside and splish-splashed in the rub-a-dub tub and then hip-hopped into my cuddly-wuddly Betty-Betty. I said night-night to Mama and Papa and Bobo and fell asleep in a snip-snap. That's all I did. Honest. Mrs. Carter said, Lulu, it seems to me that you've opened up a knock-em, sock-em, wibble-wobble word warp. I usually don't believe in this kind of hoodoo bunko-junko, but if it was going to happen anywhere, it would probably happen right here in Walla Walla. Mrs. Bell said, well, let's not quibble-quabble, Mrs. Carter. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies from all this razzmatazz. What can we do? We should say all the rootin'-tootin', crankum, woolly-bully words we can think of. Maybe that will clear the air and close the warp. Worth a try? Asked the nurse. Mr. Thomas said, aye. And Mrs. Bell said, let's do-si-do. And Lulu said, uh-huh. Nurse Carter closed the door to her office. Then she turned around and said, Lulu, let's get this harum-scarum show on the road. Lulu stood right up, and she blurted out, ticky-tacky, knick-knack, coochie-coochie-coo, hubba-bubba, roger-dodger, ooey-gooey-goo. And Mrs. Carter cleared her throat and said, hugger-mugger, hobnob, pitter-patter, bon-bon, wishy-washy, squish-squash, handy-dandy, mish-mosh. And Mr. Thomas closed his eyes, started slowly but picked up speed. Eensy-beensy choo-choo, teeny-tiny hurdy-gurdy, roly-poly, ragtag, hurly-burly, riff-raff, rumble-tumble, hip-hop, teeny-weeny, pop-top, namby-pamby, hippy-dippy, hoity-toity, hot-shot. And then Mrs. Bell stood up and took a deep breath. Put-put, vroom-vroom, honk-honk, zoom-zoom, zing-zang, clink-clank, slam-bam, fender-bender, ringy-dingy, cling-clang, ring-a-ding, boing-boing, ring-a-ling, zing-zing, bing-bang, boom, never-never, wig-wam, turkey-lurkey, tom-tom, tootsie-wootsie, tittle-tattle, tee-hee. And then without warning, words flooded the air. Fuzzy-wuzzy, fuddy-duddy, loosey-goosey, lovey-dovey, kissy-kissy, huggy-huggy, rinky-dinky-doo. Da-ga, rah-rah, go-go, so-so, frou-frou, goo-goo, poo-poo, woo-woo, rinky-dinky, arf-arf, argy-argy, woof-woof, boogie-woogie, bow-wow, super-duper, pooper-scooper, clippity-clappity, hippity-happity, clickety-clackety, rickety-rackety, blah-blah-blah, ba-ba-ba, clip-clop, drip-drop, click-clack, rick-crack, eager beaver, lucky ducky, comfy-rumpy, fat cat, hee-haw, tweet-tweet, chirp-chirp, cheep-cheep, cluck-cluck, quack-quack, yuckity-yuck-yuck. Bozo, yo-yo, heyday, mayday, hokey-pokey, hanky-panky, hooty-goody-goo, yum-yum, yummy-yum, tum-tum, gimme-gimme, gobble-gobble, jelly-belly, dum-dum, voodoo, boob-tube, moo-moo, poo-poo, cling-clang, yang-yang, ching-ching, wing-ding, bow-wow, cow-tow, peg-leg, jet-set. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, better, heada, oughta, ship-shape, slumped-up, achy-breaky, doo-dad, fee-fi, my, rag-bag, tie-dye, beep-beep, ho-ho, paw-paw, do-do, root-toot, zoot-zoot, looky-looky, yokel-lokel, Georgie-porgy, hunka-munka, henny-penny, Humpty-Dumpty. And then, suddenly, silence. Lulu, Mrs. Bell, and Mr. Thomas slumped into their chairs. Was it over? No one dared to speak. Lulu whispered, Mrs. Carter, may I please have a glass of water? Mrs. Carter sat up and said, of course, my dear. Mrs. Bell smiled weakly at the principal and said, you were magnificent, sir. Mr. Thomas perked up and smiled at everyone. He straightened his tie and said, I think we've done it, people. Mrs. Carter sat down at her desk and went back to checking over her posture reports. Mr. Thomas walked across the hall to his office and went back to the letter he was writing. Lulu followed Mrs. Bell down the hallway and soon had her English homework all straightened out. And after English, it was just an ordinary Monday in Walla Walla. Bye-bye, Mrs. Ding Dong. Ta-ta, Lulu. Of all the wonderful things Andrew Clements has written, this is one of them, but I'd like to share another with you. On his website, he wrote a message to all of his fans. He wrote, "Sometimes kids ask how I've been able to write so many books. The answer is simple. One word at a time," which is a good lesson, I think. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to know how every story is going to end. You just have to take that next step. Look for that next idea. Write that next word. And growing up, it's the same way. We just have to go to that next class, read that next chapter, help that next person. You simply have to do that next good thing. And before you know it, you're living a good life. Thank you, Andrew Clements. Thank you for sharing the story with me. Later, Gator.